Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, joined by the normal Thursday crew, EJ and Andrew, special guest Jeff, special guest Mike. Mike, it is your first podcast with Draft Professor. How are you today?
I'm great. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward to talking about South Carolina. I'm looking forward to talking about the Beamer Bowl.
I'm glad someone else said it before I did.
Apparently, I didn't know that there was such a thing as the Beamer Bowl, so I'm already in for a treat. So, Micah Parsons was traded today. Jeff, what was your reaction?
Surprised that it happened in the moment that it did. Not surprised in general. I think if you're going to do something like that, you should do it a long time ago or just never do it. But it seemed like they burned some bridges, so here we are.
And EJ, how do you think that helps? I'm assuming that trade helps the Eagles significantly, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, we was going to beat the Cowboys into the mud anyway, but this just makes it a little bit easier. So I mean, it's just another example of Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones. They're never going to win a Super Bowl as long as he's still running the team.
So Andrew, do you write an article because he was traded to I know you cover the Vikings. Do you write an article about how that impacts the Vikings? Is that the way that works?
Yes, I'm enough of a shill that I did that to answer your question, Jim. Yes, I did. Literally, that was the first thing. My wife had just asked me, "Are you done working for the day?" And I said yes. And she goes, "No, are you really done working, or is it one of those things where you're just pushing it off?" I said, "No, I'm done." And I think 15 minutes later, I was getting my kids dinner, and I saw the trade, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And then 5 seconds later, my editor brain clicked. I was like, "Ah, crap! I got to write how they play them twice a year now." So, quick 200 words, didn't do anything crazy, but yeah, no. I mean, I don't know if anybody else here has watched the Cowboys documentary on Netflix, but that team is not doing anything as long as that man's breathing. And I know that's very harsh to say, but he has fully entered his Al Davis.
Yes. Yeah. He would rather his team be a reality show than the actual football team.
And he said, "Oh, sorry, go ahead."
I was gonna say that's why it's so curious that he's trying to get futures for a guy. I mean, I'd be doing it the other way around if I was, his age. I'd be trying to
win now.
3 more Super Bowls before I'm gone. I don't know.
Yeah, and he said in the documentary, he's talking to Steven, and Steven's like, I used to think we could just win on bravado and personality, and now I think we need X's and O's. And Jerry's like, well, I used to think we needed X's and O's, but now I think we just need personalities. So it's like
he needs no salary cap and no free agency to come back, because that's why they won all those Super Bowls.
Yeah, basically.
Maybe another Herschel Walker trade with no salary cap and free agency.
He made that comp tonight. I was like, boy, oh boy, where? And right away, he said they're a better team right now than they were before the trade, which I also think is a very bold claim. So,
bold strategy.
My only theory on this is that Jerry Jones is trying to do a Herschel Walker 2.0 trade, but I actually think they got more for Herschel Walker than they did for Micah Parsons.
They did. And do we really trust Jerry Jones to use those draft picks correctly?
Yeah, Jerry Johnson's not walking through the door.
Yeah,
right. I mean, and again, back in the early 90s, under today's system, under today's CBA, it would have been all right, we have to keep Aikman and we have to keep Michael Irvin. So we have to let Emmitt Smith go. And we have to let maybe 2 or 3 of our 5 Pro Bowl offensive linemen go. Or Jay Novacek. You certainly wouldn't have that defense that they had. So, it's a different ball game. And they've had trouble adjusting to the salary cap.
Wouldn't be able to pay Dion with a Nike endorsement they got as a team either.
Right. Yeah.
So all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we could probably do a whole podcast on the Micah Parsons reaction, but we are here to talk about South Carolina versus Virginia Tech. And to me, the star of the show is LaNoriss Sellers. EJ, agree?
Yeah, this is his game to win or lose. LaNoriss Sellers, he's a guy that he has. I mean, you want as far as physically, if you wanted to build a quarterback in a lab, he's one of those guys. He has ideal size, ideal weight, ideal mobility, ideal arm talent. He's got all of that. With what his talent allows him to do, his talent allows him to make the defense wrong no matter what. I watched him against Texas A&M, and Texas A&M, they threw early in the first quarter, they threw a simulated pressure at him. So they had three rushers coming from off the line. One rusher dropped into coverage. The fourth rusher came from depth at the linebacker position. Never saw the fourth rusher coming. The linebacker, I think it was Terion York. He had a total green light to the quarterback, and he loaded up and he hit LaNoriss Sellers. It was supposed to be a sack, but the guy just fell off of him. LaNoriss Sellers just wipes off his shoulders, turns around, runs over to the sideline and throws a dime for 10 yards. That was a play where the defense won. The defense out-schemed the offense because the quarterback never saw the rusher coming, but it didn't matter because his talent took over, and his talent allowed him to make that defense wrong. That's the type of plays that he can make on a regular basis. What we need as far as development goes from LaNoriss Sellers, we need to see him in structure. We need to see him dominate or play at a high level in structure. We need to see him pick apart a defense, not with his physical abilities, but with his mental abilities. As far as his mechanics and all that could use some refining. I think I see a lot of overthrows from him. When he misses kind of high. And that's just a mechanics. He's not rotating, not getting a lot of torso rotation and keeping his feet planted and everything. But I believe that comes with reps. I mean, I think last year he was like a first-year starter. So I look at first-year starters as you just getting your feet wet. Year 2 starting, that's when you really start to figure things out. This is where he's headed into now. So I expect to see a more refined, a more polished pocket passer in LaNoriss Sellers. That's what's really going to catapult him up the draft boards. But as far as this game specifically, I think South Carolina can win this game on talent alone. I think if the game is theirs to win or lose, because if they lose the game, it's because of them. It's not because of what anything Virginia Tech did. Not no disrespect to Virginia Tech, but I think they have the superior roster. But with LaNoriss Sellers, he's everything you want in a quarterback. You just want to see the development in structure, in pocket, and probably a little bit faster decision making as well. But all that comes with reps. That comes with the proper development, and that also just comes with time and with him seeing defenses and being comfortable in the offense. So yeah, LaNoriss Sellers is probably going to be the best player on the field on Sunday.
So Mike, what do you think? LaNoriss Sellers?
Oh yeah, I don't even think it's close. EJ made a lot of really good points, and one thing he said with Sellers being a first-year starter last year. Not only was he a first-year starter, but remember he's a 19-year-old first-year starter. Okay, so the sky is the limit for him. I agree with what EJ was talking about with what I'd like to see for improvement from him this year. One more thing is I'd like to see him take a little bit better care of the ball this year. He fumbled 14 times last year. And this is a team where it's interesting. South Carolina, you could make the argument that they have the best overall player on both offense and defense in the 2027 NFL draft. Although, I think with Sellers, we'll see what happens this year, right? I mean, if he takes a step forward, he's probably going to be the first overall pick in this draft. And even if he doesn't, again, like EJ said, he's the prototype. All right. Whether you want to say he's Josh Allen or Dante Culpepper, you're talking about not just franchise caliber quarterbacks. You're talking about MVP winners. Okay. Players, one of the elite few quarterbacks that every team wants. And that is certainly the ceiling for LaNoriss Sellers. I think it's without question, he's by far the biggest prospect in this game.
Yep. So the good news is, EJ, Mike didn't use the word generational.
No.
I was waiting to see if that was going to come off his tongue. Andrew, where are you on LaNoriss Sellers?
We ain't got the Nyck Harbor yet, so.
Yeah, Nyck Harbor's parents are generational. We've been over that.
Yeah.
LaNoriss, I'm excited to see what steps he takes. I mean, both EJ and Mike, you talked about it. Mike, I'm very glad you brought up the age thing, because I think that's the biggest thing that we don't see a lot anymore with both the COVID era, which is so funny to think about, it's 5 years ago now, and then also to the NIL keeping quarterbacks in school. It's not very often anymore we see a young quarterback prospect come out, and let's say he has a fantastic year and he declares for the draft next year. He's not going to turn 21 till after rookie minicamp. So he's going to be very, very young no matter what happens, whether he's going to be waiting till 2027 or it's going to be 2026. I just want to see more reps with him, obviously, last year being his first full year as a starter. He definitely got better as the year went on and got more comfortable. The playmaking was there right from the start, naturally. The bowl game against Illinois, that's a very tough defense and just a well-coached team they have. There's a reason they're top 15, I think, that there are this year in the preseason poll. Not that that ever matters for anything. But the point remains, they have a very stiff defense, and I think that he showed in the bowl game everything that we're talking about now that has us optimistic going into the next season. So, no, and I think Virginia Tech is also a well-coached team, good defense. So it's going to be a very fun first test right out of the gates in the Beamer Bowl.
So, Jeff, LaNoriss Sellers, where are you with him?
Yeah, he's an impressive guy. I have him really high in my ranks. I enjoy learning about early producers and really kind of studying like how good you have to be right away. And like South Carolina, I don't think went into the season with super high expectations really, and neither did the media. I've seen some of the rankings from revisiting last year that had him as like the lowest rated incoming quarterback, and then he was pretty good right away, and then as they went down the stretch, he got better and better, like you guys said. He had 350 yards passing against Missouri late in the season. He was decent against Clemson, the toughest team he's going to play all year, and then he was good in the bowl game. So he's got a lot of momentum coming into this year too. He's got a ton of eyes on him. So this program has ambitions. Like for a team that has historically not been a contender in this conference, I was looking today, they've only had 4 10-win seasons in their entire program history. And 3 of them were in a row with Steve Spurrier like 15 years ago. And so if they think they're going to be a contender for the college football playoffs, you got to get 10 wins. So like if you can only lose 2 games and you're playing a lot of good teams, like you're going to have to go into stadiums and win with a sophomore quarterback like this. I think we're going to learn a lot about him this year, whether he's ready for this year's draft or whether he needs seasoning to, to really own those skills. But like his arm's great. His running ability is just unreal. Like it's arguably the best in the class, and he's a good passer. Like the sky's the limit for this guy.
So, Mike, question for you. If you put on a crystal ball with LaNoriss Sellers, and the options would be he declares for the NFL draft, he stays at South Carolina for a 3rd season, or he transfers to another school. What do you think, like those scenarios look like? Or, like, because I believe I read something where he had NIL offers to leave South Carolina, but he stayed.
Yep.
So, like, he's going to have opportunity. How do you think you discriminate between those 3 opportunities?
Yeah, so I don't think he's going anywhere. You mentioned it. I heard that he had offers from other schools, and he turned them down to stay at South Carolina this year. Now, I think that there's just so much left, to be discovered this year. He hasn't played yet this year, but assuming he plays, like he did the second half of last year, he takes another step forward, I think it's going to be really difficult to not declare for the 2026 draft. With his traits, remember, I mean, we can talk about, how he plays and all that, but his traits and his ceiling and his size and his arm and his athleticism and everything else that everybody has talked about, NFL people are going to look at him and say, this is Josh Allen. This is Dante Culpepper. And, as good as this quarterback class might be, you've got Klubnik and Nussmeier. I just think the ceiling for Sellers is so much higher. To turn down being the first overall pick in the draft would be tough. But, he's going to have to show that, he can take another step forward. We'll see what happens. I guess that starts Sunday, right?
Yeah. So, Andrew, if you were LaNoriss Sellers, would you come out as QB1 a year early, or do you stay in school and hope that you can beat out Arch Manning for the number 1 overall pick the following year? How would you weigh those options, or let's say talk about those options?
I would stay in as a combination of looking at how the NFL just handled the Anthony Richardson situation, because I think they're both – it's such a cheap but easy comparison to make, where Richardson had that 1 full year as a starter, declared. Everyone talked about tools, traits, size, cannon arm, and all those things still exist for Richardson. And it drives me nuts that the Colts have mishandled him as poorly as they have. When they drafted him, they knew he was a project, but they just threw him to the wolves too quickly, and now they're upset, and they think Daniel Jones is going to be better in the long term. But anyway, as it goes for Sellers, I would wait, because you've seen the NFL is not patient, and you can't trust the teams that are picking at the top because they can't afford to be patient, because more often than not, unless you go to a team that has a first-year head coach where they can be like, okay, we've got 2-3 years, versus you get to a team where, like, say the Colts are picking high again, and say in some magical grace, if the Colts are picking top 3, top 5 again, and they want to somehow scar their fan base and go with LaNoriss Sellers and make them think, oh my God, we're doing it again, they're not going to be able to afford, if it's Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard, to say, hey, we're going to wait and see what Sellers is in 2 years. It's funny, I'm very much before was a traits guy, and I think it's the way the game's turning into, you're seeing a lot of these guys get better as they get older and get more experience. I think Sellers would really benefit from staying for another year, and obviously he has his decision, but I think NIL money would help him. I think the experience would help him. So I would wait, but if you have as good as a year as they're potentially having, it's going to be tough to pass up. But that being said, I think you're going to know looking at their schedule, because we talked about this before when we talked about Sellers, and I meant to look before and I didn't. Their schedule from starting on October 11th, their last, I think it's 6 of the last 7 games, it goes LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Coastal Carolina, and then Clemson. Like, you're going to come out of that knowing what he is one way or the other very quickly.
Yep.
So college football playoff berth be damned. So, I think he's going to want to stay. And I think, like I said, it's a combination of what the NFL has shown and as well as what we're seeing with the game of college football.
Jeff, you want to weigh in on any of that?
You definitely hit the nail on the head. Is like, as we get on the stretch, that's going to tell us a lot. It's one of the big question marks, and it's the first domino. Like, if you think a guy's going to go top 5, that's going to impact where you really have everybody else. So it's going to impact every mock draft. It's going to dominate conversation, I think. So,
I think it's more fun to talk about if Sellers comes out than if Arch comes out. I think Sellers is the better story, because I think most of us, if we had to bet, are going to say Arch is going back. Whereas Sellers, it's an open discussion.
I might be on the other side of the fence on that, actually. I might be the opposite, but I'm in the minority.
Yeah.
What did you want to add, EJ?
I was going to say, like with Sellers, it's like completely dependent on like how he plays this season specifically, because if he plays, like if he tanks this season, if he doesn't play well, you can easily see him at another school next season. But if he plays at a high level, given the schedule that they have, it's actually a good chance that he could go number 1, and going number 1 in the draft is very hard to do. So it's always very hard to pass up, I should say. But it's And another thing you got to look at is what's around him at South Carolina. He doesn't really have high level weapons around him, so how successful can he be? But you know, he's a true 50-50 coin toss on whether he comes out or not. You really have to see how he plays and where his development is at.
Okay. So there are other players in the draft in this game. We could again spend the entire podcast talking about LaNoriss Sellers. We probably could. Mike, who is the second highest ranked player for you in this game?
All right. Can I give a 2A and a 2B?
Go for it.
All right. So my second highest ranked player is Jalen Kilgore. And I think I might be a little bit higher on him than, some of the other people, and I'm not talking about on this panel, but just maybe in general. And, when I used to try to sit down and nail down our top 100 board to turn into the huddle report, we used to be able to look at safeties and say, like, all right, this guy's not 200 pounds. He's not going in the top 100. Or this guy's not even 6 feet tall. He's not going in the top 100. And now the NFL has sort of moved away from that. Okay. And there are safeties who are getting drafted under 200 pounds. Billy Bowman almost got drafted in the top 100. He's kind of playing nickel now. When you look at Kilgore, I think that he's a legit throwback safety who's also a track athlete. So he's bigger than 6 feet. He's over 200. I think he's like 210, and he can run. He was more productive last year than Eamon Worry, who was a second-round pick. Now, I'm not saying Kilgore is going in the first round, and it's really difficult for a safety to go in the first round. But I think he's a solid day 2 player. I really like him. I'm excited to see what he does this year. And then my 2B, I think this probably wouldn't surprise anybody, but Nyck Harbor, I think he gets a little bit overrated just based off of his athleticism. But if you look at the trends in the NFL, so speed at receiver got pushed up the board in a big way this year. Okay, Isaac Tesla, I thought he would be a 5th-round pick. He went in the 3rd. Okay, Chimera Dike from Florida, I thought he'd be a 5th-round pick. He was, I believe, the very first pick of the 4th round. Even Dante Thornton, I thought would go later 4th or 5th round. He was early 4th round. Speed got pushed up. And if you look at Harbor, I'm sure you guys have probably seen this, but everybody on Twitter over the last few months, when everybody's been talking about Dante Thornton and what he did in mini camps and what he did in in training camp, has been saying, the only receivers who are 6'4" and ran a sub 4.35 40 are Thornton, DK Metcalf, and Calvin Johnson. But the difference there is DK Metcalf and Calvin Johnson have like 35 pounds on Dante Thornton. And Nyck Harbor is like a Calvin Johnson, DK Metcalf size. Now, I'm not saying he's Calvin Johnson or DK Metcalf. In fact, I think he's more like Martavis Bryant than those two. But no matter what he does, even if he doesn't take a step forward this year, if he's got another 350, 400 yards receiving this year, I think if he shows up to the combine at 6'4", 230, and runs 4.35 or lower than that, I don't see how he falls out of the top 100. So somebody will take him as sort of like their Martavis Bryant limited route tree. That's tough to develop in the NFL too. You don't usually see guys get better at route running. But I think those are the two other, in my opinion, in August, again, it's so early. Those are the other two day 2 picks in this game for me.
Andrew, who is the second highest player on your board that's playing in the Virginia Tech South Carolina game?
It's funny. I thought I was going to be alone here on the Kilgore love, but that's who I had as well. I actually had him go in the first round of my mock I had come out this morning. I had him going to Minnesota because, like you talked about, I had him as he could be a corner or a safety, I thought, for Brian Flores. I thought he's perfect for that scheme and what he wants to use. I really like how he is on the run support. I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot in corners anymore. I think I just watch enough NFC North football covering the Vikings between the Lions really putting a priority in that, and the Vikings needing to put a priority in that. I think that that's something they could really benefit from. So I wrote about that in the mock. But yeah, Kilgore, I'm a big fan of, and then ironically right behind there is Nyck Harbor as well. I want to believe in the mythical creature that is Nyck Harbor. We have to see it. But no, I think Kilgore definitely is somebody that I was such a big fan of. Eamon Warrior. I thought he should have been a first-round pick last year. I was mocking him to, I think, everybody, the Bucks, the Vikings, anybody who was on that back half of the first round, I thought could have used him. And I think him going to Seattle with McDonald's going to be fantastic. But again, when you go back and watch that South Carolina defense, now that you're going to see that with Kilgore, I think he's going to fit in seamlessly into that role. And I think he's going to kind of take over that athletic, just do it all safety type for that defense. And I think he's going to be a lot of fun starting with that Virginia Tech team or game, this weekend. So no, Kilgore for me, I'm just as big of a fan of. So I'm mad that Mike stole my thunder. So I no longer want to podcast with Mike after this game. So move along there, Jim.
Okay. Well, so Jeff, who's your second highest ranked player in this game?
So yeah, I spent some time trying to, really go through this here. As far as Kilgore goes, I first had him pretty high in my rankings, and then I like his interception production, his general coverage production. When I dove a little deeper into it, to like the way that they kind of use him, he's really kind of like an overhang player, which is like a little bit awkward, and teams targeted him a ton last year. Like he was credited with 57 targets against, which is one of the highest. It's the highest number that I have on my sheet here. He's credited with like a lot of yards against, a lot of yards per coverage snap. So the interceptions that he got really kind of helped him out in that regard. But teams were finding mismatches to exploit with him, and he showed up on some other players' highlight reels. Like I think Antonio Williams got him for one, and a couple other guys. So like if they were matching him up against like slot receivers, it kind of wasn't going right for him. But he was certainly in position a lot, and he was pretty active. And obviously, he's gonna be like a first guy off the bus kind of guy. He's like a great athlete. South Carolina is an athlete factory in general, so you love that. But like his position and his kind of body type is like a little bit of a tweener. So the league just like isn't great at figuring out how to use guys like that. Like they don't always. Some guys get lost in the shuffle. Even like really good players get lost in the shuffle when it comes to tweener guys like that. So that's him. And then Nyck Harbor is like an interesting guy. Obviously, like every player wants to be, like DK Metcalf or Vincent Jackson or one of these guys that's like the 240-pound receiver that's just like insanely athletic. But like there's only been a couple of those guys kind of like ever even. And I was on his 24/7 today, and he was the number one athlete, and they didn't really even know what position he'd be. They comped him to Kyle Pitts, like you should be a tight end. And like I've kind of felt that. I see the vision a lot more clearly, but like we're so far down the line now where he's been doing the wide receiver stuff now for 2 years into a third year, and there's never really been any talk that he's going to be anything different than that. But like the thresholds of production are so much lower at tight end. And like his general movement, like he's not like a really sudden guy for a guy who's supposed to be like the fastest guy ever. Like, you don't really see that. He doesn't have like any like huge plays or anything that really sticks out. So, he's just still such a project. Like, I think we're all giving him credit for things that didn't happen yet and expecting him to declare because we know he's going to have a good combine. But like, so what if we know that? Like we know that now, and he doesn't really produce a lot. So like, it's tough for me. It's really hard to like, for me to really put him super high. Like, just be Mike Gesicki. Like, I don't know. Mike Gesicki's played for 8 years and has made $30 million. Like, to me, it makes more sense to try to like own in on that and just be great at that rather than like trying to surpass all these other receivers that are all like really good at what they do. You know, it's tough for me.
Well, and that might end up being something that his future NFL team decides too. Like we've seen that a bunch of times. You know, Shannon Sharpe, Darren Waller, been a bunch of those guys. But I just think, you know, that athleticism. Like if you look at Isaac Tesla, he didn't really have the production either. Just when these guys get to the combine and they're that big and that fast, we saw speed at the position just get pushed up this year.
And it's interesting you brought up Darren Waller. So we did a South Carolina podcast earlier in the draft cycle where we just broke down every draft eligible player in South Carolina. And this podcast is becoming almost a repeat of that in some ways. But there were two things that came up. Should Nyck Harbor be a defensive end? Every single person on the podcast said, you know, that's a possibility. But the comments from the South Carolina fans in the comments made it sound like we didn't know what we were talking about.
Well, he only was a defensive end in high school. That's what he came up doing. So, but his thing is he's still an athlete trying to learn how to play wide receiver. I mean, if you look at his 24 tape, nobody talks about his hands. Like even the catches that he does make, they're body catches. When he catches the ball with his hands, when he tries to attack the ball in the air, it's double catches, which is not going to fly in the NFL. As far as route running go, he hasn't learned how to sink his hips. So yeah, I know he's probably working on that because they got the little clips from camp and all that at South Carolina. He's working on that. He's actually has gotten better on that. But it's just that, you know, it's a process with him. Even if he has a good year this season and he comes out, he's still going to be looked at as somewhat of a project because he just hasn't done it a lot. And the thing is, this year is the first year that he's not splitting his offseason between track and football. So this offseason, he was totally committed to football instead of track. So we should see some type of development there. But it's just that with him, you got to see it. You got to see exactly what he is because maybe he's not that quick twitch route runner type of player. Maybe he's more of a jump ball type player. Maybe he's more of a deep threat type player. We have to see exactly what kind of player he is. All we pretty much know about him right now is that he's a superior athlete. But I wouldn't, if he has even if he has a good season, I wouldn't be mad at him for coming back for another year just to season himself even more. But that's the thing. That's the thing with Nyck Harbor. He's just an incomplete prospect right now.
So EJ, who are your top 3 prospects in this game that are not named the LaNoriss sellers?
It's Kilgore. I like Kilgore a lot. When we did the cornerback podcast, he was one of my top 10 cornerbacks. It was Kilgore. I guess on talent alone, it's got to be Nyck Harbor. And I would say, I wish I could say the defensive end, but he's not draft eligible, so we don't talk about him.
You can go ahead and name drop if there is a defensive end for South Carolina that probably deserves mention.
Oh yeah,
he's not draft eligible, but
yeah, Dylan Stewart. He would be. I'll tell you what, I would put Dylan Stewart above LaNoriss Sellers if he was draft eligible, but you know he got to wait. He got to wait. It's not about Dylan Stewart. He got to wait till next year. Dylan, I would say Nyck Harbor, Jalen Kilgore. Guy that I liked, the right tackle, Kason Henry. I had him as one of my sleepers. He's fighting for that right tackle job. They're gonna rotate in and out. Pretty much that's how they do in college. They're gonna have their snaps. But this guy Kason Henry, I like a lot. He managed to stay healthy last season at right tackle. It was his first year starting over at right tackle. He's about 6'5", 6'6", 310 pounds. Has solid feet for the position. He's like a true left tackle. He's not one of them guys that you can kick. He can play guard, but he has the feet to stay at left tackle. On the defensive side of the ball, I would say Bryan Thomas's son. He's getting his first crack at the defensive end position. He's got some burst. He's number 46. He's got some burst. He's got some quickness off the snap, but he's another guy that just had to wait his turn over at South Carolina. They do another cornerback as well, Judge Collier. He's a tall cornerback, runs decent. He has long arms. He's competitive at the catch point. You look for him to. That's the thing. These guys on South Carolina, it's like you got to look for them this coming year. They don't have a whole body of work beforehand, but you see they have the talent to make a big jump, to have a breakout in this next coming season. So yeah, those are some of the guys, and like I guess the real guy I really do like is I do like Kilgore. I think you put him in the you give him the Cooper DeJean treatment, put him in the slot, put him in the overhang on the defense, because the best traits about him is he has a quick trigger downhill. He triggers downhill on what's in front of him very well. He gets beat over top because he lacks ball skills. It was one game somebody took him deep, like on a slot fade, and it was the Antonio Williams play, I believe. And Antonio Williams was catching the ball. Jalen Kilgore was looking on the other side of the field because he thought the ball went over there. He just simply didn't locate the football. That's usually one thing about him that he struggles with. But if you put him in a position where he can trigger downhill on key plays in front of him, then his natural athleticism and his toughness comes to the forefront, and that's where he looks the best at. But yeah, I'll say those are the pretty much the best players, the players that should be the best come Sunday.
So, Mike, there's two running backs in this game that I think most draftniks will have in their board: Rahsul, Faison for South Carolina, and Terion Stewart for Virginia Tech. Which of the two running backs do you think is the better NFL prospect?
Well, I think when the media gets a hold of Faison after the season's over, I think they're gonna downgrade him based on his age. He's gonna be 26 by the time he gets drafted. But I don't think that's going to be something NFL teams care about at all, especially if you look at the way that position works in the NFL. Right, your rookie deal is 4 years unless you're a first-round pick. Okay, Faison's not going to be a first-round pick. So you draft this guy. So what? It doesn't matter he's 26, right? You've got him for 26, 27, 28, 29. Mm-hmm. That's the end of his rookie contract. So, I think that if I could look into the future, I think people in the media will sort of ding him for that, but actual NFL teams won't. And I think that he's going to be a solid day 3 pick. Well, wait, let me, I think I've said this disclaimer a few times, but if everything goes the way we think it'll go this season.
And would you have Faison higher than Terion Stewart?
I feel like they're both sort of like day 3 types. I've got to do a little bit more work on Stewart, to be totally honest, but
okay.
Yeah, I like both of them sort of in that like day 3 range, and we'll see what happens this year.
Okay. So we really haven't talked about too many Virginia Tech players, so we should probably switch to the other team because we're previewing both teams, right? Yeah. Hey, Andrew, anybody from Virginia Tech that you want to name drop and talk about?
That's a very good question, Jim. Not to quote Tony Romo there. I was scouring through my board, just going through here. I don't think I got to a single. Nope, didn't get to a single Virginia Tech guy. So back to you, Jim, at the studio.
There we go. That's all right. Jeff, anybody from Virginia
I'm here to learn right now. I actually have my board up, and I'm adding people as we talk at the very moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have Henry Kaysen on there, and it's funny, Terion Stewart, I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? And then I was like, oh, the Bowling Green running back. So, it's funny. We're all learning here together.
And, there's a reason we do these podcasts, right? Because most of the people that watch a draft podcast at this time of year are building a board. So if we drop enough names that somebody is building a board, and now in this case, it happens to be one of the podcasters.
Yeah, I just
it's all good for me. All good. Jeff, anybody on Virginia Tech that you want to let the draft community know about?
They have an offensive lineman named Thomas Rimac, who transferred in from West Virginia, 5th-year player. So he should be there for 1 year. He played guard at West Virginia, left guard, but I don't know if he's going to slide into that spot for Virginia Tech or if they plan on using him at tackle. He is pretty tall. I don't know his length because I don't have the measurements, but he is. It says he's 6'6", 315, and he's had a couple good years for West Virginia in a row. Graded out pretty well as a pass blocker. So if he does shift outside, then maybe that's going to really help them. So he seems like a guy who might go on, maybe early day 3. Depending on how he fits in with this team. But they're definitely a team in transition. Like, I think it was Anthony who said, like, you look at their list and you're like, this team doesn't have as many good players as we're used to them having. Like they've had a lot of good years in a row, but the last few, they lost some guys to the portal that were good, and it's a little bit of a team in transition. Like you get kind of worried about.
And I think they acquired about 20 players in the portal. If I remember, we also previewed Virginia Tech earlier. EJ, there's a couple of wide receivers in this game. We haven't mentioned them yet. Jared Brown from South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know Virginia Tech has a couple. I have Cameron Seldon on the board, and I think you also mentioned a couple of others pre-show. You wanted to talk about all the wide receivers here.
Yeah, Jared Brown, I didn't get a lot of look at Jared Brown. He's a little undersized. He has some speed to him. I think he averaged like over 20 yards per catch. So they use him as like a deep threat. He has some run after the catch ability, but I think he's a smaller player, like 5'10", sub 200 type of player. He's more one of your shifty type of guys. I don't think he's like a pure burner, but he's got decent speed. Other guys at Virginia Tech. First guy I want to talk about, Aiden Green at Virginia Tech, 6'2", 190. Wears number 26, ugly jersey for a wide receiver. I hate that number, but it is. It's completely ugly. He needs to change it. But he's a solid player. He was a rotation player last season, so he didn't get a whole bunch of snaps. But he got the start at the last season against Minnesota, and he had 5 catches for 113 yards. I posted a clip on Twitter where he's jumping over somebody's head. So he has that type of athleticism. He has deceptive speed. He's a really, really high hipped. So he's a long strider. So his first couple of steps are really going to surprise you because he covers a whole lot of ground, and that's what allows him to get deep on some guys. I like his fluidity. He has a basketball background, so he has some type of body fluidity. He is high hip, so he struggles to get in and out of his breaks, but he has a fluidity to him that allows him to just like glide, like with double moves. It's not like a quick start and stop. Is more of he's gliding into one route and into another one. So he has some fluidity. He has some arm length to make contested catches down the field. But he's a guy to watch because he's worked his way into the starting role. Starting next to him is going to be Donovan Green. Donovan Green has been on draft radar for about 3, 4, 5 years now. His issue is, can he stay healthy? He's lost 2 years with season-ending injuries. The other years has been, he's always that guy that you're waiting for that breakout season. He always has that good season, and then you say next year he's going to break out, but it happens. He just happens to get hurt that next season all the time. But he's got ideal size, 6'2", 196, pretty rocked up guy, pretty strong. You see it in his arms and in his legs, evenly distributed muscle mass. Got solid speed, but I think he was faster before the injuries. I looked at him in 2024, and he looks a little bit. He's not as fast as he was before, so I think the injuries have robbed him from some of his athleticism because he was a really good athlete. But some of the injuries have taken their toll already. So now they play him as like the boundary X receiver. He's more of a possession guy. He still can jump. I expect him to have a good vertical if he goes to the combine, and he attacks the ball at his highest point. He has strong hands, so he can be your possession type of receiver. May give you some run after the catch abilities, but medicals are going to be big for him, and actually staying healthy this season. Actually staying healthy for 2 seasons in a row is going to be a big deal for him.
Okay, well, and I think the Hokie fans would be really disappointed if we didn't talk about their quarterback, Kyron Drones.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have anything on Kyron Drones?
Same deal, right? Like he's got to stay healthy this year. Last year it was tough for him. And, if he could build sort of on what he did in 2023, I think, that's kind of the wild card for me with this offense is you've got Drones and, EJ mentioned Donovan Green. I think the two of them are definitely draftable prospects, but this year we talked about Sellers and some of these other guys. I mean, I have no idea what to expect from either of these two Virginia Tech players, but they both are certainly draftable. And they're probably both day 3 types if they get drafted, but this is going to be a big year for them.
Yeah, I would say Kyron Drones, he has talent, ideal size too, like 6'2", 230. When I watch him play, like his accuracy is off at times, and I look at his footwork. His footwork is off at times. He gets happy feet. Is like he's doing like a little stutter step when he's throwing the football. So his feet are not always in the right place when he's throwing the football, and that leads to some inaccuracies and everything. But he definitely has talent. You watch him. You watch the mobility and all that. He's a guy that you can use in the quarterback run game. He can be a true dual threat guy, but he needs to stay healthy long enough to develop into what he absolutely can be.
Andrew, Jeff, either you want to chime in?
I'm having a great time.
You want me to chime in on drones or on anybody?
Well, I was going to prompt on DQ Smith next, the other safety from South Carolina. He hasn't been mentioned yet. Mm-hmm. Is he on anybody's board yet? No, I'm seeing some heads shake. Okay.
I got one. I got one look at him against LSU. And I think I hate watching safety tape because it's like you got to go through so much tape in order to actually see what they can do, because most of the film is like they're not involved in the play. But he looks, he's like, but he's a guy. I did like him triggering downhill against the run. He looked like an aggressive guy. He looked like he had a quick trigger downhill. I wouldn't say he has any type of elite speed as like a single high safety. I saw they hit him with a slot fade, and it took him a little while to get over top of that. But I do like him. He looks to me like he would thrive in a split safety look, like triggering downhill as a robber against on the weak side. So, but that's just I only watched him one game against LSU. So if once I dig a little bit deeper into him, I can get a clearer picture of what he is.
And Jeff, who else did you want to mention?
I would have talked about him a little bit. I like the South Carolina offensive line, like in totality. Like they have a sophomore left tackle who was a freshman All-America that, not for this cycle, but he's going to be on the rise either in 27 or 28. And then the guards, Babalade was there last year. He started the year and then I think took a red shirt in the middle. I don't know the story behind that, but there was one other guy too that did something similar. I think it was, I don't know if it was Trevon Bogg or Faison Henry, I forget, but one of the other players too started 2 years ago and then had an incomplete year. So I think that if they can get more time on task together, that it has the potential to be the strength of the team because as we know, they like I said, they're an athlete factory. So I'm expecting their players to be, big, strong, fit, lean on the ground game, get sellers going on design stuff. And then Rahsul Faison is I wasn't expecting to see what I saw when I put him on, and I was just I was laughing. Obviously he's it's funny whenever a 25-year-old's playing college, but also when he's just stomping over these guys in his conference. I was like, this guy does not belong here. Just don't even put him in South Carolina. I'm happy that he got his eligibility, just for my own sake. It's fun, but he could have just been a free agent and just joined the league. He didn't even have to go through the trouble, but he should have a big year. He's fun.
So I spent 7 years getting my undergraduate degree, and I was still well under 26 years old when I left college. I want to just be able to say that out loud. My senior year in college was the best 4 years of my life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's hilarious.
Any other players in the South Carolina Virginia Tech game that any of you want to talk about that we haven't name dropped yet, or you want to circle back to somebody that's already been talked about?
I got a sleeper that I think he hasn't played a lot last season, but he's forced himself into the defensive end rotation for South Carolina. Desmond Umeozulu, I hope I said that right. 6'5", 255. He's going to be in that pass rush rotation because last year they had Kyle Kennard, they had Dylan Stewart, they had Brian Thomas's son, Brian Thomas Jr. But this now, Kyle Kennard is gone. and they need somebody to fill in for that spot. So Desmond Umeozulu, true junior, he only got into 3 games last season. But according to the coaches up at South Carolina, they like him a little bit. He's going to play. So he's a player to look out for on Sunday.
Okay. So why don't we pause for a quick minute and do some introductions and commercials. Mike, it is your first time on a Draft Professor podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself to everybody watching and let them know about all of the draft content that you make?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you guys having me on. And this is a great panel. I mean, you guys are very intelligent. I mean, you guys know more about the current draft cycle than I do. That's for sure. Okay, I've got like the draftable players on my, on my radar, like a handful, like 6 or 7 guys, and that's about it. So, I mean, great job. Yeah. So as a hobby, my buddy Ray Mencio and I, we started NFL Rough Draft about 17 or 18 years ago. I was working for ESPN Stats and Information at the time, and I knew that I was going to do that for the rest of my life because I didn't like getting home from work at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I wanted a way to kind of stay in the game without having to, I don't know, come home at 3 o'clock in the morning, eat dinner at 4 a.m. So we started that. We've been pretty fortunate. We've entered the Huddle Report's Top 100 contest every year, and we've won it 3 times. I think it's us, Todd McShay, Bob McGinn, and actually I think the guy who runs the Huddle Report has won it 3 times as well. But we've been pretty fortunate there. And then, this time of the year, I spent a lot of time with fantasy football, actually. So I've been doing daily updates over at Walter Football. And, so I spent a lot of time doing that. So if you want to talk about Virginia Tech players, hey, I want Bayshall Tootin in all my fantasy football drafts this weekend.
Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, Mike set that up so nicely. All of us knowledgeable people, and here I am just hanging out the whole time as we're talking about everybody. But no, I do this full time. I have a lot of football stuff I do. I cover the Vikings and Bucks full time for USA Today. Football is what I do all day, and then I do it now for Draft Professors. Wouldn't have it any other way. I do Buck shows. I do Viking shows. It's just, my wife hates it, but I love it. And this weekend is my Christmas, except for the 3 hours where I'm going to be a blubbering mess on Saturday morning when Lee Corso retires. Other than that, I'm going to be thriving this weekend. But yeah, no, I have my own Substack, Prototypes and Outliers. Had a 2-round mock draft that came out this morning. Yeah, I mean, just always been a fan of the draft, and it's the best 3 days of the sports calendar. I don't think there's anything that competes with it outside of maybe a couple days of the Olympics or maybe the World Cup, but I still think the draft has them just enough.
Yeah.
Jeff.
So my Twitter handle, PJ Foster 1313. I am just a football fan, draft fan, college football fan. So it's a hobby for me, but I do like to throw my takes out into the ether and get as many right as I can, just for the sake of fun. So I like to revisit some old takes that were good and some that weren't so good, and we'll be releasing some ranks the next couple of days to get these ones in the book from summer and see which ones carry over. And been watching some of the replays of the games that already happened and already finding new guys that I didn't know about. So that's always fun. And I like following you guys and meeting you guys who are Draft Professor veterans and new to it, or new to the group, I guess, or new to our panels, including myself.
Well, we appreciate having you here, so thanks for stopping by. EJ.
Yeah, I'm here. Pretty much you can find my work on Twitter and right here every Thursday at the Draft Professor. Here's what you get on my Twitter: NFL draft film breakdowns, all 22 breakdowns. NFL film breakdowns, player evals for the NFL draft and for the NFL. Basically, all my opinions are film based. So if you don't like what I say, argue with the film. Don't argue with me. Pretty much, I'm here every Thursday, every Thursday, 9:00. So tune in. We discuss all types of topics, NFL draft related. And I promise, as always, I will never, ever, 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 ever use the word generation.
Yeah, Mike was teetering on that at the very beginning of the podcast.
LaNoriss Sellers is a Dante Culpepper, Josh Allen clone. I'm telling you, I'm standing by that.
Yep. So he's close to it though. He's got close to talent wise, yeah.
So you can follow the channel at NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. It's the same on X as it is on YouTube. What you're going to get is daily draft content. So tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Andrew's coming on, and we're going to go over the mock draft that he talked about. And then we'll probably spin it over to the Draft Professor Simulator and start doing some first-round stuff on the simulator. There is no simulator like Draft Professor. It is completely interactive. So if we were to take Andrew's first round and plug it into the Draft Professor Simulator, you'll be mock drafting against it until other fans use the simulator to change it. So it changes every mock draft. So you guys will be in for a treat tomorrow night. Next week on this podcast, it's Illinois Duke. Don't laugh. There's 2 safeties, one for each team.
Yep.
That could be going day 2. There's at least 2 corners that could be going. One may go day 1, but they're both probably going to be off the board day 2. There's a couple of quarterbacks we can weigh in and several other players. But next week we are previewing the Illinois Duke game. So I'll make sure that you guys have the player list and stuff like that well before the podcast. This week I was a little delinquent, making sure that the player list got sent out. But we're here every day doing the draft. So from now until April, every single day, this channel will have a podcast on the draft. And most weeknights, we have 2. We have a 7 p.m. and a 9 p.m. show. And then starting halfway through October, we will be breaking down the entire draft class position by position. So with EJ and Andrew, specifically, they'll have running backs. So when you tune in, they'll be breaking down 8 running backs at a time for about 5 or 6 straight weeks. And they'll kind of give you a glimpse of what the running back class looks like. And different podcasts at different times will have other positions. So that's who the Draft Professor is. We definitely appreciate any of you stopping by. And if you like this content, go to YouTube and hit that subscribe, please and thank you. It's the best way that you can say thank you if you like the content. But we are going to wrap this show up. So, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. Would love to have you on again later in the cycle. Jeff, always a pleasure. EJ and Andrew, see you here next week. For the 90 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thanks for stopping by, everybody, and we'll see you on a podcast again tomorrow night.
Wait a minute.